Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Kylie Elizabeth, also known as the Virtual Soul Educator. And on today's episode, I have special guest, Dr. Kem Smith, who's joining us from Missouri. She is a author, an educator, a speaker, an actress, a consultant, a whole bunch of wealth and knowledge. And she's going to just talk base with me today on our episode a little bit about some cultural responsiveness. She's going to share some stories that she's been experiencing in the school around lockdown. So this is maybe a sensitive topic for some of you if you don't prefer to listen in on that, as well as just some general concerns that we have around of course, subjects of education. So I'm going to bring Dr. Kem in and let her introduce herself, and we'll get going into our conversation.
Hello,
All right.
hello.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Kem. Thank you so much for joining me on my episode today.
Thank you for
How are you?
having me. I am doing well.
Thank you. So we got to touch base a little bit through social media as where I get to meet most of the fun people that are on my episodes. And I got to chat a little bit with you before we started today. And, thank you so much for sharing as much as you did with me about your experience and all the things that you are doing in the world of education. And so I'm super excited to have you on with me tonight. And so I'm going to just give you the floor and allow you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do, and we'll get going into our conversation.
All right. Thank you again for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Anytime I could talk about my passion and what I love, I'm on board. So, again, thank you for bringing me onto the platform. My
Thanks.
name is Dr. Kim, and I usually tell people don't get sick. My doctorate is in education, so I can't help you with that. I can read you a good book. So,
Nice.
Uh, how did I reach the point of getting to the doctorate? Education is so near and dear to me, and I want so badly to be able to help and not be a part of a system that's not helping. So, let me give you more information about that because this is my 23rd year in education. I work in, and I know you said Missouri, but I work in the same school district, Ferguson Florissant, and some of you may be familiar with Ferguson because that is the same city where Mike Brown was killed. And so we have multi-layered issues in our town and in our community that for the most part we've tried to address, but the issues run really deep when you talk about race, especially in Missouri, being that it is a red state and our city is completely blue. So there's so many different philosophies when it comes to school, and our kids and our communities seem to suffer the most when you're looking at those differences. I said all that to say I, I I've done a lot of research to figure out how we can help, but it's still getting to the point where it's just kind of scary to be a teacher right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell you more about some of the things we've been experiencing in terms of initially we had so many problems with cell phone usage, but we found that because students were using their cell phones more so than um, paying attention in school, there became this sort of dismissiveness when it came to school. So the district made all these purchases. We have the yonder bags that are supposed to hold the phones, which is a really interesting concept. And I don't know if you've seen them. They have the
Mm-hmm.
lock at the top and you slide your phone in and you close it. It seals the phone to the end of the day. At the end of the day, you use a magnet to unlock the phone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that created sort of a initial nightmare for us because the students have so many creative ways of making it seem as if they're actually using the yonder bag. So some of them have a burner phone that they drop in the bag. Some of them cut slits in the bottom of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them bang them against the wall to pop the lock. it was kind of a catastrophe. For needless to say, we have not ended our cell phone usage problem. I think the reason why we were so aggressive to get the cell phone usage problem under control is because students were literally having disagreements online, and those disagreements carried over into fights.
Mm,
So we were
yeah.
averaging, so the statistics that we were shown back in, I want to say it was October, out
Okay.
of 74 days, there were 86 events of fighting.
Mm,
That's a tremendous amount of fighting. And
yes.
we had a I wanted I don't know that I'm more of a qualitative researcher than quantitative, but I want to say the percentage of skipping, just coming to school and not going to class at all is about 46% of all the referrals written. So
Mm,
we were having a real problem with students being disengaged, which is the opposite of what we want. Because
right.
as a district, we want to reduce the school to prison pipeline. We wanted to stop with the cruel punishments, or sorry, the zero tolerance. We wanted to redeem our students and offer alternatives to these harsh methods of suspension where they're just out on the streets sometimes, because sometimes
Right.
their parents don't allow them to sit in the house all day
Right.
after being suspended. So what we what we're in right now is kind of a conundrum. We want to end the school to prison pipeline, but we haven't curbed the behaviors that are leading to the suspensions.
Right.
So we have kids who are on a cycle of get in trouble, come back, get in trouble, come back, get in trouble, come back. We have
Mm-hmm.
kids who will get in trouble the very same day that they are suspended.
Yep.
So on last Thursday, this is kind of what happened in terms of we had 3 kids who had been long-term suspended and not allowed in our building. They were sent to an alternative school. Those 3 children entered our building, pushed past our security, ran to the second floor, and started fighting students who were in the building. So it was about 3 students fighting 3 students. And of course, there were students who didn't want to wait in class. They left their classrooms. They were running all out in the hallways to try to watch this fight happen. And in that, there were 2 more fights that broke out at separate times. So at some point, someone came over the intercom and said, "We are on a soft lockdown. We need you to stay with your class." So we stayed through lunch. We stayed through advisory period. It's about two something hours of being on lockdown and not really knowing what was going on. We heard that there was a fight, but we didn't know that there
Mm-hmm.
were quote unquote intruders in our building. So at the end of the day, we began to get the different I don't want to call them rumors, but information began to trickle in about what
Sure.
exactly happened. By then we were so upset because, we were on a soft lockdown and all of this was happening.
Right.
Um, the head principal was out of the building at the district level. It was just pretty much chaos in our building. And as teachers, all we could do is just try to keep everyone calm.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, later that afternoon, the fight apparently spilled over into the community. One of the brothers of the kids who was in a fight ended up getting shot and had to be hospitalized. I haven't confirmed this, but there is someone who said that the kid who was doing the shooting actually went live on his social media.
Mm,
And I think this was before, not during the shooting, but before the shooting, he went live. Um,
mm,
so really kind of traumatic situation, especially considering last year, this time in St. Louis City, which isn't too far, maybe it's 15, 20 minutes from us, there was an actual school shooting where a former student had come into the building and shot a teacher and
mm-hmm.
several students, and the teacher and one student passed away.
Mm,
That doesn't seem relevant, but it is still very relevant for us, because when that was happening, there were a lot of kids who used their phones to go live during the actual school shooting when they were running from the building.
mm,
And also, I have a student who was in the class with me during lockdown who had experienced that, and her parents had moved her from St. Louis City to St. Louis County so that she wouldn't have that experience anymore. And then here she was in the same situation being re-traumatized. So a
right.
very difficult situation for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And so I want to kind of just touch on a couple of things first before I get into my deep question. So, you mentioned 23 years, right, in the world of education, and we touched a little bit on this earlier, how things even in our school systems haven't really changed so much in regards to even bettering the behavior, right, of our students. And you mentioned just now, we came up with an idea of having the phone bag to avoid these issues that were happening around the use of cell phones in schools, which I even recall when I was in high school back in like 2008, like that was a thing. Like it was like, don't have your phone or your parents gonna have to come get it type of thing, right? But now it's like technology is very much ingrained in our everyday life, and it's like another. I compared with my child, like it's like another like hand. In if you don't have your technology device with you, you kind of feel like you're missing something. And you mentioned that we didn't curb any of the behavioral issues, the foundational issues that were actually happening. And I'm just wondering, through those 23 years of you teaching, or the fact that the behavior still isn't curbed, like what do you feel is the actual foundation of some of this behavior? Um, and we don't need a remedy for it right now, but what do you think is the foundational issue regarding the behavior that you've witnessed with this last past week?
So I want to argue that the underlying issue in most of these challenges that we're seeing is it's race. It's race in
Mm,
that there is this, first of all, it's institutionalized racism that has again led to internalized racism. So, think psychology class when you learned about self-fulfilling prophecy.
mm,
So you get in this cycle of institutionalized racism where, housing is how we get money for schools. But if you're stuck in a certain community, then you're stuck in a certain school. You're in this
right.
overcrowded school, and then next thing you know, you're dropping out. And then when you drop out, you're in a criminal justice system. And then there is this felony on your record and the perception that you're a criminal. No one wants to hire you. Then you can't get
Mm,
out of the neighborhood. And then you're back in the school with your kids. So this ongoing cycle of
mhm,
people assigning behaviors to you as a result of your race, and then you accepting those behaviors and beginning to internalize what they are saying or how they are saying you're supposed to behave. So giving in to those stereotypical ideas about who you are because
mhm,
you've been denied the opportunity to learn what exactly your culture is. This forced
right.
assimilation, when you look at it from a curriculum point of view, when a British literature class is in the actual track where students are sent, but then African American lit is something that is you can take on an optional basis. Yes, it's the
Mhm,
English credit, but it's still an optional course. And all the students don't go on that track because they're like, well, it's African American literature, only African American students need it.
right.
No, no, no. We need to be very clear that, in this society, there are multiple races. Even though race is
Right.
socially constructed, there is this idea that you have to separate. And in reality, I use this phrase all the time. We grew up together. Like, Africans were brought to the Americas in 1619. This is
Mhm,
very early on because the first colony was founded in 1607. We've been here
mhm,
all along. We're not stepchildren. African
right.
Americans are part of society, and we are part of America. And we cannot continue to only talk about African American things
Yes.
during February. Doesn't
Right.
work like that.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, and I can agree. And to your point of, again, we are a very blended community of people, and I think it's hence the reasons of why we are is for multiple reasons. We have the slave trade, we have migration, we have all the things from all the various different populations that have moved here. But it is a trending theme that throughout even our curriculum that it is Eurocentric, ideologies, or even the viewpoints from of a certain subculture of people, and it's not encompassing that melting pot, right, that we're considered here in the United States. And again, foundationally, we're not being culturally responsive to our students with multiple demographics in our schools, especially if we're taking out learning about specific cultures, because I think we as a people should learn about all people,
Mhm.
not get to cherry pick and appease a certain group for whatever reason. And I'm talking whatever way you want to look at it. I feel that it is beneficial to know the good and the bad about all the cultures, because we are all involved in this society that we live in. And so my coming back to like a question being, um, when it comes to you dealing with that situation with the school, you're in a soft lockdown, and you're not even understanding what's to come out of that type of situation. Did you feel that you were prepared in that situation, or that you knew to do, or did you feel like the training was adequate, the follow-up was adequate? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I would start with being very, very concerned about the mental stability of everyone in the building. So I'll just take the example of the last big fight that we had in the building. The secretary was punched in the face.
Mm,
Um, I do worry about people getting injured. I
mhm,
have a coworker. This wasn't in our building, but a sister building. Actually, she was at the alternative school who was hit with a Chromebook,
mm.
and she's had, oh gosh, I can't even remember how many surgeries she's had since then.
Oh, wow.
So I do worry about the safety of my coworkers and the safety of the children, and who knows if these children are carrying weapons.
Mhm,
So did I feel prepared? I did feel a level of safety because my door was locked,
mhm,
but our building was designed in the early 1970s.
mhm.
So we have sort of an interior locking system. Like
Got
we have an open floor design, and at any point, if any room is breached, they can access many rooms.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So in essence, I felt safe, but I also feel really, really concerned about the future.
Right.
Like if three kids can breach our building, what else could happen? So that's really
Yeah.
scary for me. Really, really scary.
Yeah, and I think obviously we talk about school shootings, and even just the larger fights and behavior issues that we see in schools, either stemming from social media or just stemming just from mental health issues that we've seen across these types of events. And there's a lot of initiatives that come out on how to kind of combat that. And when you mentioned, it's an older building, and it has a specific type of locking mechanism, I just immediately thought like, oh, budget, like that's going to take a lot to like revamp a complete like security system even for that school, right? And what that would look like. And so budgeting, a lot of people don't think comes into a factor as well when we're talking about safety and security in schools. And I know that there was a big initiative after, we've experienced a lot of mass shootings around the US, but I don't think it's enough where people are actually taking it serious until it actually happens to them. And
Mhm.
that's a mentality I feel that is harmful to us in education across any of the contexts, how, minimal foundational is or extreme as it is, such as having to, have a better security system for safety. When we don't think something is really, we don't think things are affecting us really until it actually happens to us. And I think that relates to how our experiences are in school, if we're a teacher, if we're a student, and how just the overall operation of your districts and things like that go, because it's like, I don't want to pay for this because I don't see how it benefits or how it's going to hurt unless you really have that direct impact and experience. And I don't know if there's like a quick fix for that, but I think we need to be more proactive and mindful of, things that can happen, and what is actually hurting us as a community around our world of education, and those certain areas that we can work on. Um, and so I just want to kind of lead that into, I know you've announced your candidacy for a state representative role. So I'll let you kind of speak on that. So I don't want to get all of that wrong, but congratulations on putting that in. And I want you to kind of touch base on that.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. It wasn't an easy decision. I Politics and schools are not supposed to mix, but when I
Right.
announced to the union that I would be putting my hat in, or my name in the hat for a Missouri state representative for my district, I was told that I would need to step down from my position. So, um, basically, the election is August 6th. If I win, then I leave my job. If I lose, I go back to work. So
Interesting.
my goal and my objective is to position myself where I can actually be a voice for the public school teacher, especially in Missouri, especially when public education is under fire. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many initiatives to create a charter school, which really undermines the whole purpose of what we're trying to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if our schools had more resources, like you just mentioned, th- a new building, which would probably be a bond issue, could be
Yeah.
designed to use the technology that we're supposed to use. So, for example, our infrastructure is so old. I mean, we have Wi-Fi, but if Wi-Fi goes down, everything is on a Chromebook. So that is
Mm.
almost a wasted day. You know,
Right.
you you could just keep kids at home if something's wrong with the
Right.
Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
So I just want to position myself that I can find a way to create more jobs, get schools the resources that they need, and continue with business and economic development in the community because it is that community's economic development that feeds into the schools. And if kids have
Mm-hmm.
somewhere to work when they're done, or if they have access to scholarships so that they can get college or get into a program, if there's grants available, then we're going to see a better, stronger community. And that's what we
Right.
need. We need to
Absolutely.
give kids this hope that there is something they can do next.
Right. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking that stance, and putting your hat in for that. And you can all see on Dr. Kem's social media page, she does post about that. So I'll link that in our notes later on, at the bottom of the video. But yes, like, it does. Do you feel conflicted? Like you choose, like, it's like, what battle? Did you feel like you're picking a battle, like leaving the classroom, if you win versus, or do you feel that you're going to fulfill? I do feel that you'll make big change, of course, if you get that role. But how hard was that decision, or is that decision for you? You think?
It's a constant conflict. One, in Missouri, the Republicans have a supermajority.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much whatever they want to pass is passing. So I would be fighting a battle for the things that our
Yeah.
community needs. And I'm aware of that. But I don't want to think of it as fighting a battle. I want to think of it as a way of meeting in the middle. and finding a way
Mhm.
to compromise about the things we need. It is a major decision for me because the pay cut is unexplainably bad. Like,
Yeah.
also, I would have to live away from my family. So I would have to be in another city, which is a 2-hour drive, 4 days a week
Yeah.
from January till May. So it's a tremendous sacrifice. My husband, of course, is
Yes.
on board. Um, my 14-year-old daughter, she's a little unsure because,
Yeah.
how are you going to get a hold of mom for 4 days uh, a week in the middle of
Right.
it'll be her sophomore year of high school. So it's a big
Mm.
decision for my family. It's a big decision for our lifestyle. But I also want to position myself to be able to help the community in ways that I can't being in the
Yeah.
classroom.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you. And uh, good luck. I wish you the best with all of that, because it does take a lot of us to advocate, for the needs of our community. And that has been something I've heard across different states. We can't do certain things, especially if we are an educator within the system, which to me is very oxymoronic, I would say, because I feel as educators, we are primarily supposed to educate people and to help make this world a little bit better. And when we know certain information, the fact that we can't do what we love and also advocate at the same time, it's kind of like a pick or choose. Which, what are we picking or choosing? Are we all not in the wanting, are we all not wanting what's best for students and for our community and for our youth and the future of our communities that we live in? Because again, I mentioned over and over that our children and these littles and these high schoolers are the ones that are supposed to be carrying on our next generations. And if we're gatekeeping certain information, if we are not allowing those of us who are very educated, that have direct access to them, learn from us, then what are we doing? And I just don't agree with a lot of some of the things that happen in the schools. So thank you so much for wearing that hat of advocacy. And those of you listening, please, like, these are types of things that we do need in our, as basic as advocating for yourself as a parent or your child, to if you want to support the schools and do district level work in this capacity. It's needed for various types of voices to speak up on behalf of our communities and support, and not allow something to go in one direction that may not be best for all that's involved in that community. So again, thank you so much for that. Um, my next question for you is, so I see on your social media, you talk about a lot. Obviously, you post about your advocacy, but I see something called your Extraordinary Educator Affirmations Journal. So you're an author. So do you want to share a little bit about what your book is, and or the journal, and what educators could use with through it, or how they utilize it?
So I am writing a book currently called The Extraordinary Educator.
Okay.
While I've been doing that, I've recognized that one of the things that I need to get through each day, especially as challenging as it is
Mm-hmm.
the idea of affirmations to remind myself, um, you're not doing as bad as you think. Like, you're actually doing a good job. And when I was an
Mm-hmm.
author, sorry, not an author, but a columnist with the company called Chalkbeat, I had to consistently remind people, even especially through COVID, that we're
Mm-hmm.
not doing as bad as we're led to believe. Like, there was this push down or push back against teachers in education when schools closed. we're
Mm-hmm.
we're doing okay, and we constantly need that affirmation of what our purpose and what our goals are. So this affirmations journal is a step by step getting you through the day, reminding yourself to put yourself first, to eat right, to exercise, to take time for you. So each
Mm-hmm.
journal has a prompt and then a space to respond. So however you start your morning, if you started with this, it changes the pace of your morning.
Nice.
When we talk about motivating ourselves, when we motivate ourselves, it sets up the whole day to be better for everyone who you're going to encounter. So again, people who have purchased it, they're all really happy with what's happening as a result of having this journal to fall back on. It helps you to remember who you are and what your purpose is on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll have to definitely get a copy of that. So thank you so much for creating that and for writing your books that you do. So those of you, again, who are interested, Dr. Kem does have a website where she does have the books up there as well as the journal. And also you're an artist. So do you create the cover work for your books as well with your artwork, or how do these come about?
Yes, so this one is a journal that I wrote for Black girls or Black women,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
yes, I painted that picture, and essentially the series, because that portrait is sorry, that painting is part of a series called "When I Rule
Okay.
the World," and
Nice.
so in each of those series, you see a Black woman demonstrating her strength by just having the world as the part of her in her hands or in
Hmm.
her world, just running things.
Yeah. And I think as women, we're running a lot of things, and um, you shared a lot about your experiences and all the different things that you do. And again, you guys can see through her platform, the services and everything that's being offered, as well as guest speaking, motivational speaking, or transformational life coaching. So how, and you're teaching, you're an adjunct teacher, like, and you're running for an office, like how do you manage to juggle it all? I think that's a question that I get a lot, but for you, like, how are you juggling it all and keeping, yourself sane through all of these fun journeys that you have that you're in?
So this is like so I go hour by hour with what I have to do. So I'll take my yearly plans, quarterly plans, monthly plans, and then break it down by day and then break it down by hour. But I'm always
Mm-hmm.
keeping my goals first. Because a lot of people feel like, well, this whole running for office came out of nowhere. And I'm saying, no, everything led to this and
Yeah.
everything is a part of it. So I'm not putting anything down. I'm organizing and
Mm-hmm.
structured with what I am doing.
Nice. And I laughed when you showed your phone, because I'm like, yep, I never know what date is. And if I didn't have my phone in my calendar, I would be very much in trouble because I'm all over the place as well. Yeah, so you stated there too, your purpose is to demonstrate how education and validation can heal and transform, which I love that. And I think even in the world of education, and coming from an educator, we talk a lot on mental health. We talk, as you shared your experience earlier in the conversation, this work is traumatic. Like, I feel like we can very much compare sometimes to those that work in, the hospital, that work around, mental health, that work around, like, inadvertently. And I think this is where a lot of states are battling, like, the social emotional conversation, like, but inadvertently in education, we tend to be those therapists or those counselors, or that big shoulder to lean on in our roles. And I think it just comes by nature with the fact that we are, in a sense, raising children, but educating them, right, and trying to do what's best. But at the same time, we have to mind ourselves and the adults that we work with. And I'm sure that book is going to be really great for educators to read. So thank you for providing that.
Yes, I'm looking
Um,
forward to sharing it with more educators. That's my goal, to
okay.
ensure that we are all on the same page when it comes to taking care of our mental health while we take care of others.
Yes, absolutely. And I always go back to the plane. They always say you got to put your mask on first before you try to help others with theirs. So it's so important. And I think we tend to forget about that, especially those of us that kind of really wear our passion very hard and fully on our sleeves, that we are heavily invested in this, and sometimes we do forget to think about ourselves and kind of ground ourselves back to reality and address our own things instead of taking on everybody else's problems too. So my last question for you, and I kind of been talking through this with a lot of my other guests, is, kind of from your stance and your experience in education, what do you think is a foundational piece that needs to be addressed in our world of education, or even a topic that, we need to do better in to just really make education better for all of our students across the US?
So my company is called Cultural Competency Educational Consultants.
Okay.
My goal, if I could just sweep a blanket over education, would be to ensure that everyone has cultural competency, that
Mm-hmm.
everyone has this ability to deal with cultures that are your own or are not your own, and not just deal with, but be successful in treating everyone as a human with
Right.
equality and giving
Right.
people what they need. So, from a socioeconomic point of view, from a race point of view, there's a racial mismatch as well as a financial mismatch between the customer, which is the student, maybe the
Mm-hmm.
parent, and the teacher who's in the classroom. And
Yes,
so that would be my foundation. If I can fix that and give everyone cultural competency, I would definitely do that.
absolutely. Sorry, I had to write that down because that's like a big topic, and I love that you have those resources and your consulting business. I'll have to talk more about with that with you. But yes, those again. So she just talked about her consulting and her resources. So Dr. Kemp, thank you so much for sharing just a little bit with us, and I definitely would love to have you back on another episode. And again, to the followers, just take action. It's time to advocate for your community, for your students in education. If you're not liking how things are going, we got to speak up and speak on it. I feel like if we don't, then it's just going to continue to be how they are. So Dr. Kim, thank you again, and I will be sure to link all of your information in the subscription information below. And of course, everybody like, follow, subscribe. Myself, Kylie Elizabeth, the virtual educator, and Dr. Kem Smith. And thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
Yes, thank you for having me.